We're going to walk through a general overview of ransomware and the issues with traditional storage, cloud object lock, and Retrospect's immutable backups, a demo of Retrospect Backup for Windows, a demo of Retrospect Backup for Mac, and finally, a technical deep dive into Retrospect's immutable retention policy and the differences between cloud storage providers' object lock implementations. Ransomware is a huge global threat to businesses around the world. You've heard about the high-profile attacks, Colonial Pipeline, JBS, Garmin, and Acer, but many people now know a colleague whose business has been attacked. It's more prevalent than you might think. That's because the majority of corporate targets are small and medium businesses. 72% of targeted businesses have fewer than 1,000 employees, and 37% have fewer than 100. These aren't large corporations with the resources to plan for this vector of attack. These are small businesses that have 1 or 2 IT administrators on staff, or even no in-house IT. Businesses are projected to pay out $20 billion in 2021, a 100% year-over-year increase for the last 4 years, and it's only going to get worse with new business models like RAAS, Ransomware as a Service. The problem for companies is that their storage is always connected with full access for administrators. When ransomware gets the administrative credentials, it has full access too. The storage doesn't have a policy to say no one, not even the administrator, can change this file for a set amount of time. Cloud Object Lock does just that. Because cloud storage providers like Amazon S3 control the API, they can add features like Object Lock. This lock is a retention policy for a specific version of a file that is locked from changes from every user, including the administrator. You can think of it as a virtual air gap in the cloud, because there is no way, barring to close the account, to delete that version of the file before the retention date is passed. Let's look at Amazon S3 as an example. This is the Object Lock Retention UI with compliance mode set. That is the mode that Retrospect uses. You can see the retain until date and the specified version of the object. Now, once we click save, you cannot change this version of this object unless you close the account. You should protect your root account on Amazon S3 or any other cloud storage provider using multi-factor authentication, or MFA. Setting up an immutable backup set is as simple as ticking a single checkbox and setting the retention policy. Keep in mind that you need to first create a bucket or a container that supports versioning and object lock. You can only set up object lock when you create a bucket. Some services will let you enable object lock after creation through their support team. This is specific to each backup set, so you can have multiple immutable backup sets that have different immutable retention policies. Retrospect Backup ransomware protection is certified with Amazon S3, Microsoft Azure Blob Storage, Google Cloud Storage, Wasabi, Backblaze B2, and MinIO. Ransomware protection is included in every edition of Retrospect Backup, for both Retrospect Backup for Windows and Retrospect Backup for Mac. Let's do a step-by-step walkthrough of ransomware protection in Retrospect Backup for Windows. We're going to create an immutable backup set on Amazon S3. We're going to back up a document to it, then we're going to log into Amazon S3 and delete it, or at least add a delete marker, and then we're going to restore that document back to the desktop with Retrospect Backup. Here we are in Retrospect Backup for Windows. Now we're going to create an immutable backup set. Select Backup Sets, Create, we'll select Cloud. Now we're going to give it a name. Let's say Cloud Set Today Lock. And we're going to fill in the path, the access key, and the secret key. Now we're going to set the immutable retention policy to 2 days. Next. And now that's created. Now we're going to create a script to back that up. cloud script. We're going to select source, we're going to select test. That's this folder over here. It has one document in it. Now we're going to click destinations, and that's our 2-day locked set. And we're going to say run. Now Retrospect Backup is backing up the document into the locked set and marking it as an immutable backup. Now that's run. We're going to come over here and say refresh. Now you see we have a cloud set 2-day lock. Great. Now we're going to delete it as if we were a malicious attacker. Delete. Now you'll notice I'm not writing permanently delete. What this is actually doing is adding delete markers in the versioning. So it appears to be deleted, but it's not really. So you see here I have cloud set 2-day lock, and under it we have files with delete markers on them. So if we drill all the way down, we can see that there are still versions of the backup files, and if we drill down into this one and go all the way down, we will see that indeed we have object lock retention till October 1st. Switching back, we're going to delete. We have deleted the file inside of test, and now we're going to restore it. We're going to select the point-in-time restore for this locked set. Restore it to the original location. We're going to select the default settings. And it's restored. Let's do a step-by-step walkthrough of ransomware protection for Retrospect Backup for Mac. We're going to create an immutable backup set on Amazon S3. We're going to back up a document to it. Then we're going to log into Amazon S3 and delete that backup set. And then we're going to restore the document back to the desktop with Retrospect Backup. Here we are in Retrospect Backup for Mac. We're going to click Media Sets, Add. I'm going to select Cloud Locked Set. Now we want to do retention policy. Let's say 2 days for this example. Click Add. Now we're going to add the path, the access key, and the secret key. Now we've added these. I'm going to click Add. Now we're going to create a script. Cloud script. We're going to select the desktop and go to the cloud locked set. I'm going to save that and run. Now we're backing up the document on the top left up to the Amazon S3 locked set with 2-day retention policy. Great, that's completed. So now we're going to delete the document. Come over here to our S3 bucket. I'm going to click refresh. And so now we see we have cloud locked set. Now let's delete it as if we were a malicious attacker. Click delete. Delete. Now notice it doesn't say permanently delete. So what it's actually doing is adding a delete marker. So we say delete objects, it says deleted, and it's gone, but it's not really gone. So over here we see show versions. We click on that and it's there. And if we click on this, we'll see delete marker. And then if we drill down, we see that the backup files are there, but they have a delete marker, so that if you unclick show versions, it's not there anymore. So we see that there is no backup set shown because show versions isn't selected. Now we're going to go back to Retrospect and we're going to restore it. So we're selecting the point-in-time restore from the locked set. and we're going to restore this to the desktop. Now that's running. It's retrieving the immutable backup from the locked set on Amazon S3 and ignoring the delete markers. Now, as you can see, the document's been restored. Let's walk through a technical deep dive. Retrospect's ransomware protection creates a rolling window of immutable backups. First, you create a proactive AI script with a backup set configured with an immutable retention policy. On the first backup, proactive AI runs and an immutable full backup is created. And on the second backup, proactive AI determines the next date it will run and backs up any file that will fall out of the retention policy by that future date using forever incremental backups. This ensures that customers will always have immutable backups with complete point-in-time restores. There is never a time when a backup depends on an out-of-policy file. So just for a few technical details, there are per-object retention policies and per-bucket retention policies. For per-object, each object has its own date. Now this is the case for Amazon S3, Wasabi, Backblaze B2, MinIO, and Microsoft Azure Blob Storage starting fall 2021. Now this is a retention mode called compliance mode. This is not governance mode, which is separate. For per bucket retention policies, each bucket has its own policy. Now this is the case for Microsoft Azure Blob Storage as it currently is, as well as Google Cloud Storage. In this case, each new file that is added is marked with the number of days in the retention policy to be blocked for. For example, a new file added today with a 2-day retention policy would have the retention date marked 2 days in advance. But a week from now, the new file that is added a week from now would have its retention date marked 2 days from that date. Let's examine what this versioning looks like in Amazon S3 and CyberDuck. So you'll see here there is a show versions in Amazon S3, which will allow you to see each version of an object. You'll see that there is an RDB file, that's a Retrospect Backup file, and then a delete marker. So let's say we went in and deleted the object. It would appear deleted if you don't have show versions on, because there's a delete marker there. But it wouldn't really be deleted. You would be able to click show versions and see both versions of the file. And similarly, in CyberDuck, a free Windows and Mac cloud storage browsing tool, you can see that there are grayed out versions of the file. And so those are the original version and then the delete marker. Now, all of the cloud storage providers have versioning, but not all of them show it in their UI. Let's walk through the UIs of the different cloud storage providers. This is Amazon S3. You can see the object lock retention panel with the retention mode and compliance mode, and there is a retain until date. Now you can access this information under the properties of an object when scrolling down to object lock retention. This is Backblaze B2. Now in their UI, if you go to any object, you can click on the blue link and a details panel will appear. You'll see down here, there is an object lock, retention mode, and it expires on. That is the retention period. This is Wasabi. You'll see that if you click on an object, there is a file details panel, and under object locking, it'll show you compliance mode and the retain until date. Now, if you try to delete an object in Wasabi, it will deny you. However, in CyberDuck, with the Wasabi bucket mounted, you can delete it. And if you delete it from in CyberDuck, you will no longer see any remnants of it in the Wasabi web console, although it'll still be there if you look at CyberDuck with the Show Hidden Files. This is CyberDuck. In CyberDuck, when you load an object storage, you'll be able to click on the file and then click Info, and then click on Metadata, and you'll be able to see Object Lock Mode Compliance and then Object Lock Retain Until Date. and that is the retention policy. This is Microsoft Azure Blob Storage. Under your container, you'll be able to see Access Policy, and next to it you'll see Immutable Blob Storage, and then if you create an Immutable Blob Storage retention policy, you'll be able to lock it for the retention interval, and it will start creating retention policies on each new file for whatever interval you set. Now you'll also see that there's a per blob version locking that's in preview right now, September 2021. This will give the same granular sophistication that you'll see in Amazon S3 and Wasabi and Backblaze B2 in terms of setting a backup set to be a specific retention policy, but a different backup set within the same container on Microsoft Azure Blob will be able to have a different retention policy. This is Google Cloud Storage. After you set up a retention policy for the bucket, you can see with any new file that there is a retention expiration date column, and that will be filled in with the retention policy. Why do businesses choose Retrospect Backup? Protection against the unexpected. Accidents happen, malware hits, hardware fails, and disasters strike. You never know what's going to happen next to your data. Retrospect Backup provides data insurance with on-site protection on an external disk or a network-attached storage like a Drobo, as well as off-site in the cloud. If you have a backup with Retrospect, no matter what happens, you can just click Restore and move on. Retrospect, a StorCentric company, provides data protection for businesses, protecting over 100 petabytes across 500,000 customers for over 30 years.